It's rare to find an object that can arouse the curiosity of archaeologists, ancient astronaut theorists, and creationists, but the protagonists of the following subject are just like that. The Ica-Stones are in fact a significant collection of more than 15,000 carved stones. What's so strange about them? Well, the drawings carved into them, which are strangely detailed with depictions of dinosaurs, complex medical surgery, and forms of advanced technology such as telescopes. Many believe that these stones are nothing more than a clever hoax, while others see them as clear evidence that an ancient human race, or a pre-human race, once existed on Earth, with advanced technology in an age when, according to modern science, dinosaurs ruled the planet. These stones range in size from pebbles to larger stones weighing up to 50 kilograms and are made of andesite. It is a particularly hard igneous rock that is difficult to carve, but the surface of these stones has an oxidized layer that is easy to scratch. The complexity of the images also varies, from the simplest to the most complex. Some of the designs are reminiscent of the representations of the Paracas, Nazca, Tiwanaku, or Inca cultures, while others are in a style never seen before. The subjects of the engravings include quite ordinary depictions such as flowers, fishes, or live animals, or even images of sexuality and gender. There are also mythological monsters or creatures. Other stones depict geometric figures and symbols corresponding to the petroglyphs and geoglyphs we know today. One of the Ica stones, for example, depicts a monkey, which is almost identical to a known geoglyph from the Nazca Plateau in Peru. This similarity in itself raises questions. Although these are remarkable figures, their subject matter is familiar, but the dinosaur depictions on the hundreds of Ica fossils are much harder to explain. And even those that show dinosaurs and humans together, such as this image of a human figure sitting on the back of a dinosaur, or the one where a T-Rex is snatching a human. These stones owe much of the attention they have received for decades to these drawings and to the depictions of clearly advanced technology, such as a man holding a telescope. Or what about the stones, which are said to show medical procedures that were unknown when they were found, such as the first successful heart transplant, which first took place in 1967, a year after the stones were discovered. But there are also drawings of what is said to be a cesarean section, or an engraving of what many believe to be brain surgery. On one of the stones, a tube connects a man to a pregnant woman, suggesting that the engraving may depict a blood transfusion. Well, what we actually see on these stones is much harder to decide than on stones that clearly depict dinosaurs. But let's take a trip back in time when the stones were first discovered. Its history dates back to 1966 when, on the occasion of his 42nd birthday, a Peruvian doctor, Javier Cabrera d'Arquea, was given a stone by a father whose son had been cured by the doctor, a friend according to other sources, bearing a carved image of what the doctor believed to be an extinct fish species. Cabrera's interest in Peruvian prehistory and the fact that his father had collected similar stones encouraged him to search for more. Initially, he bought more than 300 stones from two brothers, Carlos and Pablo Soldi, who also collected pre-Inca artifacts. They said they had tried unsuccessfully to interest archaeologists in them, although whether this led them to part with their stones and sell them to the doctor is not known. The real breakthrough, however, came only after Cabrera found another source for the stones, a peasant farmer named Basilio Ushuya, who claimed to have stumbled upon a huge stone deposit when the flooding of the Ica River washed away the side of a nearby mountain, revealing an unknown cave. Although Ushuya would not reveal the location of the cave, he agreed to sell thousands of stones to Cabrera, whose collection eventually grew to more than 11,000 pieces by the 1970s. The doctor has published a book on the artifacts entitled The Message of the Engraved Stones of Ica, in which he explains his theories on the origin of the stones and their meaning. He claimed in it that the stones provide evidence, I quote, "that man is at least 405 million years old, and evidence of what he called glyptolites, a species from another planet." By transplanting cognitive codes into highly intelligent primates, visitors from space have created a new man on Earth, he writes in his book. Thanks to the book, this was the first time that researchers and the world became aware of this unique collection of artifacts. Then, in 1977, the BBC made a documentary about the discovery. However, this film drew the attention of the Peruvian government and raised the question, how could a peasant man just sell off priceless archaeological artifacts with impunity? As a result, the authorities eventually arrested Ushuaia, who, under the threat of years in prison, eventually retracted his story that he had found the stones in a cave and claimed to have carved all 15,000 of them himself. In the same year, the BBC produced another skeptical documentary, Pathway to the Gods, in which the peasant man explained how he carved the images on the stones using a dental drill and revealed that he had achieved the patina he needed to carve the images by frying them in cow dung. He said he got the idea from comic books, textbooks, and magazines. Skeptics and scientists had a sigh of relief and quickly branded the Ica-stones as fakes and a hoax and considered the matter closed. Interestingly, none of them bothered to check the man's claims anymore. No one tried to replicate the effects of frying andesite in cow dung on igneous rocks. Nor is there any information on whether in the documentary the man used andesite rocks to show how the fakes were made at all. I tried to find out about this film, but I could not find any trace of it anywhere. In the years that followed, Ushuaia repeatedly and contradictly withdrawed, then reaffirmed the forgery again, almost untraceable. After that, the Ica-stones were forgotten for many years, until in the 90s, Cabrera gave up his medical career and in 1996 opened the Museo de Piedras Grabadas to display thousands of stones. After Cabrera's book and the opening of the museum exhibiting them, creationists took the Ica-stones as evidence and declared that there was indeed a time in human history when humans lived alongside dinosaurs. This clearly contradicts what we learnt in school, that the extinction of dinosaurs preceded the first Homo sapiens by about 65 million years, and also, at least in part, disproves the theory of evolution. Proponents of the paleoastronautics theory have also referred to the fossils as evidence of a lost pre-human advanced civilization derived from other planets. Surprisingly, neither position is supported by the scientific and academic communities. So what is the truth? According to those who believe the Ica stones to be genuine, Ushuaia was forced to claim that he had forged the stones. Otherwise, he would have faced a prison sentence, as Peruvian law, like in other countries, prohibits the sale of archaeological artifacts. And the fact that Ushuaia himself has admitted this only confirms it. The archaeologist Alejandro Pezia Acereto, an employee of the Ica Regional Museum, found carved stones in 3 different tombs dating between 400 BC and 700 AD. The images on these stones are similar to those found on the Ica stones sold by Ushuaia. Acereto published his findings with drawings and descriptions in 1968, 2 years after the first Ica stones were in Cabrera's possession. But there is one very important fact in favor of those who advocate the authenticity of the stones, and that is the staggering quantity of stones. We are talking about more than 15,000 carved stones. Let's try to imagine that amount. If Ushuaia had carved just 1 stone a day, it would have taken him 41 years to produce the entire collection, which means he would have had to start forging them as a teenager. But suppose the peasant man was an even more diligent forger and carved, let's say, 5 stones every single day. It would still have taken him more than 8 years to produce the entire collection. Perhaps he had helpers? In 1975, a peasant woman called Irma Gutierrez de Aparcana turned up, claiming to have helped Ushuaia carve the stones, and the illustrations were copied from comic books, textbooks, and magazines. Well, whether this was true was never established. However, there is another theory, that some of the stones are authentic, while a smaller number, perhaps the most controversial, are fakes. Ushuaia may have found some stones that inspired him to start making fakes for financial gain. You must have wondered why scientists, researchers, have not carried out dating tests on the stones. After all, that would put an end to all speculation once and for all. Well, the radiocarbon dating method only works with organic materials. It cannot be used for stones, rocks, and other inorganic materials. If it were otherwise, the true age of the pyramids and other ancient structures and statues would have been known long ago. There would be only one way to determine the approximate age of the Ica stones: by examining the soil or cave where the stones were found. However, as the exact location of the site has never been known, there is simply no way to date the stones. And speaking of scientists, it's interesting that when the scientific community gets news of findings or finds something that doesn't fit the generally accepted picture, it immediately feels cornered and immediately starts defiant resistance. First, they declare that all stones are fake without exception, and then later they say that only those finds that do not conflict with our historical picture are not fake, but those that do are fake. People who believe the fossils are real have put forward several alternative theories that assume the presence of an ancient pre-human civilization on Earth, many of them claiming that the finds were made by Atlantean inhabitants. The stones, which contain telescopic and similar images, are thought to be the work of a pre-Columbian civilization that coexisted with the primitive tribes of the time around 20,000 BC. There are also several theories about the dinosaur fossils. Some believe that the stones are real evidence that humans existed during the dinosaur age, while others believe that some of the prehistoric creatures did not die out, but survived the catastrophe caused by the asteroid that hit the Earth. Some of the dinosaurs that survived may well have been encountered by early human groups and later evolved into the legends of dragons. In any case, a number of artifacts have been unearthed from around the world that clearly depict dinosaurs and which, unlike the Ica stones, have been shown to be original ancient artifacts. Let's take a look at some of them. This inscription, called the Burunjor Monster, was found in July 2006 in Central Australia. One of the dragon-like creatures on the Ishtar Gate in Iraq. Basilisk depiction from the Zhou dynasty between 1122 and 220 BC. Depiction of a Brachiosaurus on the Zhou sauropod from China. Reptile sculpture from the Shang dynasty, 1766 to 1122 BC. A 3,000-year-old Stegosaurus statue recovered from a landslide in southeastern Turkey in 1971. A Mesopotamian carving of a prehistoric dinosaur, possibly an Apatosaurus, from 3,300 BC. Petroglyph of a dinosaur discovered on Indian land in Utah. Petroglyph discovered in the Anasazi area of Western America. It should be added that the human figure seen here may not have been placed on the rock at the same time. A petroglyph of what is thought to be Ankylosaurus from Canada. The medieval relief of St. George slaying the dragon in the chapel of St. George in the Palau de la Generalitat in Spain. The dragon is more reminiscent of Nothosaurus. Bishop Carlisle was buried in England in 1496. His tomb has various depictions of animals, but strangely clear dinosaur depictions have been placed here too. Around 1850, this bronze statue was found in Africa. On the back of a strange dinosaur-like creature rides a Dogon barbarian. A reptile-like creature on the side of a pot in the Lima Pottery Museum. It is dated between 200 and 700 AD. A detail of a Palestrina floor mosaic from the Middle Ages also bears a representation of a dinosaur. And last but not least, a carving in the Temple of Angkor Wat in Cambodia clearly shows a Stegosaurus. Well, as anyone can see, the images on the Ica stones are not the only ancient depictions of dinosaurs. They were clearly known to exist before the BC era. The surprisingly accurate depictions and the fact that, at least in the case of the Ica stones, these prehistoric creatures were depicted alongside humans, suggests that the humans of that time knew much more about dinosaurs than humans do today, as they may have lived with them. Despite the many clear examples, skeptics agree that the stones are nothing more than a hoax. But the more open-minded believe that attempts to discredit the stones are merely a way of hiding evidence that runs counter to mainstream, accepted scientific views. However, the Museo de Piedras Grabadas, where the stones are kept, remains open to those who wish to interpret the mystery of the Ica-stones for themselves. Do you think the Ica-stones are original? Is it possible that humans or members of a lost civilization once lived with dinosaurs? Or do you have your own theory? I'm curious to know what you think, so be sure to write it down in the comments. Subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified of my latest videos. Thanks for your attention. See you next time.